I've written two books about twin flames. The first one was Twin Flames and the Love Story Within, and the one after that was Twin Flame Transcendence. They're both available on Amazon. These two books came from my experience, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of them and why I wrote them and what has happened since. So let's get started. I wrote Twin Flames and the Love Story Within in 2022 after my twin flame died. This book was written because I was grieving and I wanted my horrible experience to be useful to somebody else. If I could write a book and it helps even one other person going through a similar thing, then I would feel like it was all for something, not for nothing, if you get what I mean. So I wrote this book with the idea in mind that it takes you through the stages of the twin flame journey. The first part of the book explains what a twin flame is and how you know if you've met yours. And then each chapter, starting with even before you meet your twin flame, talks about the journey, step by step. So I started with the dream. I had a dream before I met my twin flame, a year before, about him, about meeting him. I didn't know who he was yet. I just saw this person in a dream that was pure love. And then after I met him a year later, I realized that's who it was. I had written it down in my dream journal, and I went back and looked. So I think that's an important step of the journey. Then, of course, we talk about meeting. So you have precognition that you'll meet somebody. That doesn't happen every time, but then you come to the point where you meet. And sometimes we call it a reunion because you actually have a kind of memory or a familiarity that tells you you've met before in other lifetimes. And of course, then we have separation. And I go on to explain what happens when you have union again. Physical union, as some people call it, which I don't think is an essential part of this journey, but it did happen to me, so I explain how that felt. And then I go on to explain about the death stage, because everybody dies. Your twin flame will die. You will die. All things on this physical plane of existence eventually come to an end. And for me, that happened with my twin flame after just a few months of knowing him. And I think it's an important part of the journey because when somebody you love that much dies, you really learn what love is. Grief is a great teacher about your heart. And I explain in this book that there are other loves possible beyond the twin flame. It doesn't end there. And since I've written this book, countless people have found me to talk to me about their journey because it's so similar. My niche is twin flame death because I know how to relate to all parts of the twin flame experience, but not many out there speaking publicly can relate to the death of a twin flame. So that's why I do my work, because I want my pain to turn into learning and wisdom for myself and others. So if you'd like to get a copy of one of these books, Twin Flames and the Love Story Within, published in 2022, you can do so on Amazon. And I also have published it in ebook format on Kindle. And as of right now, in 2025, there is not an audiobook, but that is coming soon. So keep your eye out. And if you've already read my book, thank you so much. Please leave me an Amazon review. In 2023, I wrote Twin Flame Transcendence because I felt like in my first book, I hadn't said enough. There was more that I had to learn about twin flames and the journey. The journey doesn't end when they die. In fact, in many ways, I would say that was the beginning for me, not just with the twin flame journey, but with my life, with everything, my spiritual path. So before I wrote these books, before I met my twin flame, I wanted to be a spiritual coach. I wanted to teach meditation and wellness. I just didn't know how that would come together. But after my twin flame died and I wrote the first book, I realized I had a lot of wisdom to teach people on those topics of spirituality and oneness and wellness, but coming from the perspective of the twin flame journey. So in Twin Flame Transcendence, I come at it from more of a consciousness angle. A lot of this book is about raising your vibration, your consciousness, your soul journey to be able to find happiness and your true self on this path, using this path as a catalyst, as a springboard into who you could be and how you could help people on this planet. So, the Twin Flame Transcendence book is actually a collection of my writings. The first book was a book that I wrote step by step all the way through, almost like a manual, right? But the second book is a collection of individual topics and writings on those topics. So we have some chapters about finding the purpose in the twin flame journey, about transcending the suffering, twin flame signs and synchronicities and how to follow them to their meaning, and also what you need to change about your life, about psychic powers and things that might be awakening in you because of this journey. So Twin Flame Transcendence was written after I gained some more knowledge and found that I had a lot more to say. And there may be a third book because I'm still learning. Nobody knows everything about twin flames. We're all on this path equally. Nobody has all the answers. But I just try to write to be able to teach people what I've learned so that wisdom doesn't get lost. When I wrote my first book, Twin Flames and the Love Story Within, I never thought any success would come from it. I was just putting it out there because I wanted to write. I wanted to get my experience on paper and kind of preserve what happened to me and what I've learned. But a lot of people have found it useful, and I'm so grateful to the universe for marketing this book for me. I have almost done no marketing for either of my books. I actually have written 3 other spiritual books, not about twin flames, but for sure these 2 books are my most popular. Believe it or not, people on the internet every day are Googling twin flames and trying to find answers. So I hope these 2 books provide those answers. And if you'd like to set up a one-on-one session with me to discuss your twin flame journey after reading my books or before reading them, you can do that on my website, wellnessoneness.com, and I look forward to connecting with you.